This time of year you would be expected unboxings and reviews of a brand new Z series phone from Sony, but now we have the X series. For those of you who are not aware, Sony has decided to overhaul their flagship Z series range with a new design and new direction, so we now have the X series. I've used quite a few Sony phones over the past couple of years, and I'm currently using the Z5 Compact, so I was really looking forward to getting my hands on the Xperia X. Let's start off by looking at some key specifications. The Xperia X comes with the latest version of Android 6 out of the box and is powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 650, which is a 1.8 GHz hexa-core processor. This isn't a bad processor, but I was surprised and a little disappointed to see that Sony had put a 600 series processor in this handset. I was expecting to see the Snapdragon 820, which is in the X Performance, essentially the upgraded version of this phone, but then you do have to pay around £100 more for the privilege. That being said, the X hasn't been shortchanged in other areas. Sony continues their heritage and arguably market-leading camera technology with the X. You'll get a 23 megapixel rear camera and a 13 megapixel front-facing camera, which is an upgrade from the 5 megapixel front-facing camera that we saw in the Z5 range. The main camera also has a few tricks up its sleeve, as Sony have given the camera predictive hybrid autofocus, which essentially lets you track objects or people in photos even when they are moving. Combining this with a 0.6 second fast capture, and you can just about snap any action or moving shot that you may need to. One thing I'm glad to see that's fixed is the camera boot time, which on the Z5 was in my opinion a little bit slow, but on the X it booted up pretty much instantly. I had a chance to take some pictures with the device as well and was very impressed, particularly how well it picked out colours and adjusted to different lightings. The phone is powered by a 2620 mAh battery, which Sony still claim will deliver their 2-day battery life promise with normal usage, despite it having a smaller battery than the Z5. I would consider myself a heavy user, and I just get a day to a day and a half with the Z5 handsets, and the Xperia X is matching that, so the smaller battery seems to be more efficient. I know some of us were hoping for bigger batteries and maybe getting closer to 2.5 days use, but we also want slimmer handsets and more hardware inside. So this is a trade-off I'm willing to accept, and as long as I get a day with heavy use, then that's good enough for me. The Xperia X does come with a fast charger in the box, which is good news. I ran a small half-hour test, and in this time it went from 30% right up to 64%, which is not the fastest I've seen, but still fairly quick, so that gets a thumbs up from me. Another thing that we see is that Sony have kept the USB 2.0 and not made the transition to Type-C, so I expect to see this in their next flagship perhaps. Although I was expecting it this time round, I wouldn't mark it down, as only a handful of manufacturers have actually made this switch yet. One thing you will have noticed is the design change. The Xperia X has definitely changed in aesthetics from the Z5, however it still managed to keep that Sony look and feel that we all are used to. There is some new colours as well. You have the traditional black and white still, but with a matte finish which gives it a real look of quality. And then there is two new colours, rose gold, which is a device I have here, and the lime gold. Both offer a great alternative to the traditional colours without being too flashy. The Xperia X also feels really nice in the hand, and this is large in part to the slightly curved screen edges. They're not curved like you'll see on the Samsung Edge, but they just seem to fall away at the edges, and this gives the device a really nice look and feel. The fingerprint sensor is integrated into the power key like we saw in the Z5 series, which in my opinion is the best place for it, as it's where you naturally hold the device. There is one thing that I do feel is missing in the X series lineup, and that is replacement for the Z5 Compact. I was a big fan of the compact size that Sony gave us. For me, it's a great size, so I was disappointed that we haven't seen an X Compact, but that's not to say that there isn't one around the corner. The screen is a 5-inch 1080 by 1920p full HD display, so slightly smaller than the Z5's 5.2 inch, and to me it feels a lot nicer in the hand than the Z5, despite the actual dimensions being almost the same. I would say this is probably down to the Xperia X being slightly narrower than the Z5, which makes using it with one hand just that little bit more comfortable. The screen is packed with technology from Sony's Bravia TV range, including X Reality, which is an upscaling piece of tech to enhance all your media, and we also have Triluminos, which enhances colours, especially reds and greens, which are notoriously difficult to emulate on screens. All these combined with a very bright screen make for great viewing on the device, and images, colours and video all seem enhanced and look crystal clear. Sony have also given the screen an oleophobic coating, which helps prevent finger marks and smears, and it also makes it very easy to wipe clean. The Xperia X is running out of the box the latest version of Android, which is 6.0.1. The internal memory is 32GB with 19.07GB of usable memory out of the box. I know some people wanted to see bigger internal memory options from Sony, but with 200GB SD cards now available and coming down in price, I don't think that this is necessary, especially as bigger internal memory means the handset itself does go up in price. So I'm perfectly okay with just a 32GB option. I mentioned earlier that this device is powered by a 650 Snapdragon, and that has got a few eyebrows raised. However, in my honest opinion, over the week I was using it, I didn't feel it was slowing me down at all, and the software experience seemed pretty good. However, that does make me wonder how much better it would have been with an 820 under the hood. I'm guessing it would have been impressive, but I suppose we'll have to wait and see how the X performance fares up. Some other changes to the software include a new feature called Smart Cleaner. This automatically optimizes storage and memory depending on frequency of app use. This is something I didn't particularly notice in my week of using the device. However, I can imagine over time when you download more and more apps and start to use the device more, you may start to notice this. Another thing Sony has decided to do is preload SwiftKey out of the box, so no more Xperia keyboard. This may bother some people, but I've used SwiftKey for years, and to be honest, I find it the best. That is my personal opinion, so you can always head to the Google Play Store and download your favourite. Overall, I would say I was pretty impressed with the Xperia X. It ticked the box in pretty much every category. I feel it's a nice step away from the Z series, even if it is a small step. The design I felt was cleaner and simpler, and I also prefer the colour range that is on offer with the X series devices. The big thing that lets this device down is unfortunately the processor, and if you are into mobile gaming or use the device for heavy multitasking or perhaps work, then it probably isn't the best option out there. However, the Xperia X was in no way sluggish at all, and for those wanting a premium device but not wanting to pay high-end flagship prices, then the X has to be a strong favourite. I would almost describe it as a light flagship, but that feels a little harsh if I'm honest, as everything I asked of the X, it did, no questions asked. So if you want a phone that is a great all-rounder, with flagship features and a great camera, then the Xperia X has to be one of the best choices for you.